everyone. Very warm welcome back once again to our lectures. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shatarne. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are continuing with our wandering through Vrindavan. And why? Well, because it's the very best place to achieve love of God, love of Krishna. And that is what we want. And knowing that it is rare, we jump at any chance to be in Braj. Either physically, as I am fortunate to be now, or mentally, as you are now, by transcendental sound vibration, Shabda Brahma. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 870, and a number of other places as well, we find the following verse. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyatam Yadi Kutopi Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalam Janma Kotisu Kritair Na Labhyate. And I quote, pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price, and that is intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. And that's Braj. So today I would like to deepen our attachment to Vrindavan by relating a version of a pastime I spoke on last year. As we've discussed before, many of Krishna's pastimes are repeated with slight variations throughout Braj Mandala. The Rasa dance is a perfect example. There's a special and unique Rasa dance in each of the 6 seasons in Vrindavan, as well as numerous tax toll pastimes in various places. We've discussed a few, where Krishna and his friends, they stop the gopis who are traveling from one place to another with their milk products. Sometimes Krishna taxes the gopis on Govardhan Hill, sometimes he taxes the gopis at Varshana, and sometimes he taxes the gopis as they try to cross the Jamuna River. Happens a lot of places. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 14.173, we hear from Kaviraj Goswami, quote, being a cowherd girl, Srimati Radharani regularly carries milk in a container and often goes to sell the milk on the other side of the Jamuna. To cross the river, she has to pay the boatman, and the spot where the boatman collects his fares is called Dhan Gati. Lord Krishna stops her from going, telling her, first you have to pay the fee, then you'll be allowed to go at the Jamuna. So a pastime can take place in a variety of ways throughout Braj Mandala. Variety is the spice of life, and real life is Krishna consciousness. So, last year we told a famous pastime of Krishna from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Prema Samputa, wherein he describes how once Krishna dressed up as a gopi in order to get into Yavat, he had to come in a disguise, to see his beloved Srimati Radharani. But there's another version of the same pastime, wherein Krishna actually transforms himself into a gopi. He doesn't disguise himself as a gopi, he transforms himself into a gopi to visit Sri Radha in Varshana. One pastime happens at Yavat, the other happens at Varshana. So the Varshana version is described in great detail by Sri Narada Muni, another hero. In Garga-samhita, Canto 2, in 2 chapters, chapter 17, which is entitled Shri Radha Krishna Sanghama, which means the meeting of Radha and Krishna, And chapter 18 is entitled Sri Krishna Darshan, meaning the sight of Sri Krishna Chandra. That's how it's described in Garga-samhita. So it is this version from Garga-samhita that I would like to share with all of you today. Krishna appears as a gopi. It can also mean, you'll hear her name later, can also be taken that he's appearing as a very beautiful demigoddess. So one day, in Nandagram, Krishna woke up with a desire to test Radharani's love for him. Not in the sense to test if she loved him, but to test actually how deep and unalloyed was her love for him. The exact verse in Garga-samhita, it's Canto 2, Chapter 17, verse number 3. Radhikayascha vijnaya tulosi sevene tapaha. Pritim parikshvin Shri Krishna vrishabhanu param yayo. It's beautiful Sanskrit. And I quote, understanding the austerity Radha had undergone in her service with Tulsi Devi and wishing to test Radha's love, Sri Krishna went to King Vrishabhanu's place at Varashana. So then, in order to enter the palace, it's a big palace out there, and Sri Radha's quarters, Krishna changed himself into a beautiful gopi. Verse 9 says, and I quote, O king, transforming himself into a wonderfully beautiful gopi, decorated with tinkling anklets, bells, rings, jewel bracelets, armlets, pearl necklaces, and a splendid nose pearl, and with beautiful dark braids like a sword with the glory of sunrise, Krishna gazed at King Vrishabhanu's beautiful palace. So, transformed himself into gopi. The whole intention was to test Radharani's love. So to get into Varshana, no disguise, gopi. And he's standing before the palace of King Vrishabhanu, gazing at it. Now, that was quite a long Sanskrit verse, but the most important line in the Sanskrit I saw was Adbhutam Gopika Rupam. Adbhutam Gopika Rupam. It means that Krishna actually transformed himself into the form of a female cowherd girl. Of course, this is not surprising for us. In his pastimes of incarnating into this world, Krishna assumes so many forms. There's that famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ete chamsa kalo pumsha, Krishnashtu bhagavan swayam, Indrari vyakalam hyokam, mridayunti yuge yuge. Haven't quoted it for a while. Quote, all these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars. But Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In every age, he protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. Unquote. And of course, though one of those incarnations is the female, Mohini Murti. So not surprising Krishna can transform himself into a gopi. So now looking, Garga-samhita describes, Krishna was looking extremely beautiful in this persona as a gopi. And he had no trouble entering King Vrishabhanu's palace. No trouble whatsoever. And he went undetected as a gopi straight to Sri Radha's quarters. Verse 10 of that chapter of Garga-samhita reads, Vrishabhanu varas yavan pasyam bandira koshalam maya yuvati vesho sho tato yanta param yayo. Tato yanta param yayo. Quote, it's really beautiful. Magically assuming the appearance of a young girl, Krishna gazed at the glory of King Vrishabhanu's palace. And then, entered into the women's quarters, unquote. Now, as I was studying Garga-samhita, I saw there's a beautiful description of the inside of the palace at Varshana, King Vrishabhanu's palace at Varshana. I heard a lot about the palace, but I never read a description of what it's like inside. So as Krishna walked towards Sri Radha's quarters, Garga-samhita says, and I quote, "There were many columns and doors, splendid as 10 million suns, where there were jeweled courtyards, in which many jewel-like women glistened, and were beautiful women holding flowers and playing venas, kartals, mridangas, and other instruments, sang of what? Sang of Sri Radha's virtues. In those inner apartments of the palace, there was a large and splendid garden filled with many pomegranates, kunda, mandara, and nimbu trees. Where many bees, Garga-samhita says, where many bees, mad after honey, flew where a fragrant, cool, gentle breeze blew, scattering the pollen of many thousand-petaled lotus flowers. Where cuckoo couples, I thought that was nice, where cuckoo couples, peacocks, cranes, and parrots cooed sweetly in groves, where there were thousands of flower couches, and thousands of artificial streams." This is the inside of Varshana. Then the Garga-samhita continues. "In their midst, Sri Radha wandered in the palace courtyard, which was anointed with kumkuma paste and splendid fine curtains. And as she was standing, she was filled up to her ankles with shirisha petals, anointed with drops of malati honey. As she was standing in this beautiful area, the palace courtyard, up to her ankles were surrounded by shirisha petals, which were all anointed with malati honey. Now, when I read that, she was standing up to her ankles with shirisha petals, I became curious. What are shirisha petals? Just got my mind going. So I researched and I found out that, first of all, these petals, they come from a tree that we know in the West. It's called the acacia tree, sometimes referred to as the acacia shirisha tree, of which the flowers are very, very fragrant. And then my curiosity led me on, more research, to the Narada Pancharatra, chapter 5, called Sri Radha Sahasranam. Many devotees know this. Sri Radha Sahasranam, which means the 1,000 names of Sri Radha. And amongst those 1,000 names, it took a little while, but amongst those 1,000 names are 4 names of Radha that contain the shirisha flower. Shirisha flower. Radharani is called Shirisha Kush Mamoda, which means she's as fragrant as a shirisha flower. She's called Shirisha Kusham Ojvala, meaning that she's as splendid as a shirisha flower. She's called Shirisha Maridvi Sarishi, meaning that she's as glorious as a shirisha flower. And Shirisha Kushama Kriti, she's as beautiful as a shirisha flower. And then I found a most beautiful verse by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sri Hari Bhakti Kalpa Latika. Sri Hari Bhakti Kalpa Latika, chapter 9, text number 8, wherein he compares Krishna's feet to a shirisha flower. He writes, and I quote, "Let me take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Hari, which are as precious as the most valuable jewels, as soft as fresh butter and shirisha flowers, and which are marked with the signs of the flag, lotus, barley corn, a rod for controlling elephants, and many other similar markings, unquote. So, anyway, when Krishna manifested as a beautiful gopi, entered into Sri Radha's quarters, Radharani immediately became attracted to her. Understanding this new girl was obviously someone very special, Sri Radha embraced her unexpected guest and then placed her on a golden throne. And then she worshipped her with argya, madhuparka, and other auspicious substances. Then our beloved Sri Radha Vrindavaneshwari, she said, "Oh, most beautiful friend, welcome. Please tell me your name. I feel very fortunate that you have come today. Your glistening splendor, your sidelong glance, your words, your pleasing smile, and your very graceful motions are as pleasing as Lord Narayan, the husband of the goddess of fortune." She continued, "You are appearing to me as more dear than myself. Your form is like that of Braj's prince, who captured my heart long ago. It's mysterious, but I am as happy to be with you as I am with him," Braj's prince. So at that point, Krishna replied, "Dearest Sri Radha, my name is Gopa Devata." Krishna's replying, but remember, he's Gopi. "Dearest Sri Radha, my name is Gopa Devata. I live in Gokul, just north of Nanda's palace in Nandagram. From Lalita's mouth, I heard of the sweetness of your beauty and your virtues. Thus, out of curiosity, I have come to see you. Even in the city of Indradev in Swargaloka, no one has ever seen or heard of anyone like you." Now what Krishna as a gopi is saying to Radha is actually very true. In Indra's heavenly abode, Swargaloka, there are many beautiful women. In particular, we hear in Vedas, Urvasi, Pramblocha, Punji, Kashtali, and Ramba. Urvasi, Pramblocha, Kunji, Kashtali, and Ramba. These are the most beautiful women in Svargaloka. But their combined beauty doesn't equal even a fraction of Sri Radha's beauty. How do we know? Because their beauty is material. They're in the material world. Of course, they have subtle material bodies, but their beauty fades in time, as everything does in this world. Whereas Sri Radha's beauty, her form is totally spiritual, Satchidananda Vigraha. Her form is completely spiritual. Therefore, she's the most beautiful. Therefore, the beauty of the heavenly Apsaras can never compare with that of Sri Radha. And Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, he writes in Sri Vrindavan Mahimamrita, one of our favorites, often quoted, Shataka 11, verse 47, he writes, quote, "If Sri Vrindavan mercifully allows me to see its queen, Sri Radha, then I will consider the association of celestial women and precious jewels as poison, liberation as disgusting as spit, and the attainment of Vaikuntha even as a source of anxiety. Moreover, by her darshan, I will relish the devotion of that cowherd girl of Vrindavan." So after identifying herself and revealing where she lives, Gopa Devata excused herself, saying to Sri Radha that she would return the next day. Now, as Gopa-devata left, Garga-samhita describes that Radharani just burst into crying. At the same time, the hairs on her body became erect. Her voice faltered. And she fell to the ground like a banyan tree struck by the wind. So once out of sight, Krishna assumed his original form as a cowherd boy. People may be surprised. The original form of the Lord is as a cowherd boy. And he made his way back to Nandagram. But the next morning, he again assumed the form of the gopi, Gopa-devata, and he returned to Varshana. And it's a very beautiful description in Garga-samhita how Sri Radha and her new friend, new gopi friend, Gopa-devata, they just relished each other's association, their newfound friendship, talking together, laughing together, walking in the gardens together. They spent quite some time together until Krishna, as Gopa-devata, decided it was time to test Sri Radha's love for him, the whole purpose of the pastime. And just how he tested her is very interesting. It's fascinating. He began by saying, quote, "Dearest Radha, I want to share something with you." So she replied, "Yes, my dear Gopa-devata, please do." So Gopa-devata began. "You know, just the other day, I was walking to the market with my milk products on the narrow pathways of Govardhan Hill, when suddenly, you know, the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna, he stopped me, as he has stopped you many times. Carrying a flute and holding a stick in his hand, he grabbed my hand, and while laughing he said, 'You cannot go any further. You have to pay a toll tax.' And when I replied, 'Never,' he took my yogurt pot and broke it. And after breaking the pot, he grabbed my veil and ran off towards Nandishwara Hill." Ran off towards Nandishwara Hill. You can just envision Krishna running away with her veil. So, Krishna as the gopi, he continued, "Sri Radha, I know you're attached to him, but this frivolous, simple, naughty cowherd boy, he has no good character. My dear saintly girl, don't be an illusion. Give up your love for Krishna." She's saying that to Radharani. "Give up your love for this Krishna. He's a scoundrel, he's a rascal, he's a thief. He's cheating on you." Then Garga-samhita says, "Itam savairam purusham vachastak chutvacha radha brishabhanu nandini shu vishmita vakya pade sharashvati padamshma yanti nija gada tam prati." Quote, surprised to hear these harsh and hateful words, King Vrishabhanu's daughter, Radha, smiled and elegantly spoke to Gopa-devata. Now the word, in that verse, the word shu, meaning very, indicates that Sri Radha was extremely surprised, or shocked you could say, to hear such inimical words from Gopa-devata. And the word Saraswati in that verse, the Acharyas say, indicates that Radha mentally worshipped Saraswati, the goddess of learning, for blessings in presenting her counter-arguments. She's going to present counter-arguments. And here they are. Sri Radha replied, "My dear Gopa-devata, why do you criticize Krishna, who brings auspiciousness to his devotees, and whose lotus feet are sought after by Dattatreya, Shukadev, Kapila, Shuri, and Angira? Yes, He's a cowherd boy, but the cowherd boys protect our cows. They chant the cows' names. Day and night they see the cows' beautiful faces. There's no better birth on this earth planet than that of a cow herdsman here in Braj. And my Krishna, he's the protector of the Shvargalokas, the Siddhas, the Munis, the Yakshas, and the Murats. He's the master of all humans, Kinnaras, and Nagas. Day and night, glorious great souls devoutly bow down to his lotus feet and make offerings to him. My newfound friend, following his devotees here and there, Krishna purifies the worlds. He loudly declares his love for his devotees. To those who worship him, Krishna gives liberation, but he does not easily give pure devotional service. Unquote. Those were her counter-arguments. Actually, there's many more. There were pages and pages, but just to give you an idea how Radha was defending her beloved. So then, Sri Radha closed her eyes and just meditated on her beloved, Sri Krishna. And Krishna, in the form of the gopi, seeing his beloved perspiring and full of longing for him, her face filled with tears that were just pouring down her cheeks, he became pleased with her and understood that she had passed his test of love, in which she proved that her love for him never wavered. So then he suddenly manifested his original form as a cowherd boy, and Garga-samhita describes in a voice as deep as thunder. He said, "O girl whose face is like the moon, O queen of all beautiful girls in Braj, O girl with all the virtues of youth, open your eyes, look, called by your sweet words, I have come." We're coming close to the end of the lecture, but I don't want it to end. Oh, called by your sweet words, Krishna said to Radha, I've come. When will you come to us? So opening her eyes, Sri Radha smiled and she was overjoyed to see the love of her life sitting beside her. And so also were all her friends and maidservants. For once again, she had proven her allegiance to Krishna, born from her, how would you say, unique love for him. She'd shown her mahabhav, her unalloyed, selfless love for Krishna. A love, you could say, unmatched by any other living entity in either the material or spiritual worlds. All glories to Vrindavan's queen, Srimati Radhika. Well, thank you. Let us conclude today by the following prayers of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. Again, we're mining not gold or silver or jewels or that. We're mining his Shri Vrindavan Mahimamrita. And this will be Sataka. Sataka means chapter. Sataka 9. We'll close with his words, most appropriate. He writes, "When will I eternally reside in Vrindavan? While dancing, laughing, and singing, while repeatedly displaying the symptoms of ecstatic love, such as perspiration and becoming stunned, while shedding tears of love, while meditating on my dear Lord Krishna, the lover of Sri Radha, and while being maddened by the mellows of ecstasy. When will my mind be intoxicated by merging into the ocean of Sri Radha's loving nectarian pastimes? When will I give up everything, including liberation, like straw on the street, and spend my life in the abode of Vrindavan. While wandering within her own forest, when will Sri Radha, whose reddish lotus feet are decorated with sweetly tinkling ankle bells, and beautified by the effulgence from her jewel-studded anklets, capture my heart? I'm going to repeat the last one. While wandering within her own forest, when will Sri Radha, whose reddish lotus feet are decorated with sweetly tinkling ankle bells, and beautified by the effulgence from her jewel-studded anklets, capture my heart? Thank you, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. And thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for gradually revealing to us the glories of what is most dear to you, your beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. We thank you so much. And we will we'll be continuing, Prabhus. In a couple of days, we'll be back with more jewels that we have mined from the ocean, the Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, the ocean of devotion to Sri Radha and Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radhika ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, ki jai. See you soon. All right, well, thank you.